The Wuthering Waves first anniversary patch is shaping up to be the most stacked update we ever seen. Not only that we are getting new limited units like Zani and Ciaccona, but Kuro is bringing back nearly every 5-star unit released so far, across 2 massive banners phases. With so many choices, the big question is, who should you pull for? This video will break it all down. Which units are worth your Astrite, which signature weapons are must-have, and where free-to-play players should stop when building characters through sequences nodes. Beyond that, the rest of the sequences are strong, but if you're managing your Astrite, stopping early is a great way to keep building new teams or adjust your roster for future updates. I'll also compare the free 5-star weapons to the limited ones and highlight which signature weapons is worth using on multiple characters, giving your account the most value. Whether you are day 1 veteran or just hopping back in, this guide will help you make smart decisions in both phase 1 and phase 2 of the anniversary. Hey, I'm Kenzer, I make chill, no fluff guides to help you pull smarter and enjoy your game more. If you like the vibe, consider liking the video and subscribing. Also, a huge thank you for everyone who has subscribed so far. We just hit 100 subscribers. Your support, all the nice comments, and the feedback I've received across my few first videos really means a lot. I truly appreciate every opinion and suggestions you leave. It motivates me to keep improving my content and my craft in creating these videos. Now, let's get back to who's worth pulling in this anniversary patch. Zani is the big highlight of phase 1 of patch 2.3, and now we have the full official breakdown of her kit. She's a Spectro main DPS that wields gauntlets with a very unique playstyle centered around Spectro Frazzle and heavy attack damage. Her kit works by building up 2 resources, Redundant Energy and Blaze. She uses Redundant Energy in her base form to enter her enhanced state, then transitions into Inferno mode during her Resonance Liberation. In Inferno mode, Zani unleashes powerful heavy attacks that scares off both Spectro Frazzle damage and heavy attack bonuses. Zani thrives when she has teammates applying Spectro Frazzle. She can consume those stacks to generate Blaze faster, which fuels her stronger attacks. That makes her extremely reliant on good Frazzle appliers, and while Spectro Rover can technically work, Phoebe is clearly her best partner. Phoebe not only applies tons of Frazzle stacks quickly, but also massive amplifies Frazzle damage with her outro skill. Because of how Zani consumes Spectro Frazzle to trigger Helical Embers to build Blaze, running Eternal Radiance is mandatory for her echo set. It keeps her crit rate high and perfectly syncs with her mechanics. Her signature weapon is extremely powerful, and while it's tailor-made for Zani, it still holds good value on other characters too. It boosts crit damage by 48%, gives 12% attack, provides 8% defense ignore on basic attacks, and amplifies Spectro Frazzle damage by a massive 50%. Even if other characters can take advantage of the Spectro Frazzle amplification, the 8% defense ignore is triggered simply by landing a basic attack, making it useful and easy to benefit from a variety of characters. If you are not pulling her signature weapon, your next best options are Tragic Comedy, Roccia's weapon for heavy attack buffs, or Variety's handle, Xiangli Yao's signature for some liberation damage boost. Overall, Zani is a mechanically demanding character who rewards players that can build up Blaze efficiently and manage her Inferno rotations. She offers high burst potential and some of the most stylish animations in the game. But to get her full potential, pairing her with Phoebe or planning around strong Spectro Frazzle teams will be crucial. While Spectro Rover can serve as an early game Frazzle applier, to fully unlock Zani's damage potential, you should prioritize pulling Phoebe before going for Zani's signature weapon. As a sub DPS, Phoebe provides more consistent value through her Frazzle amplification and powerful outro buff. Once you have both Zani and Phoebe, going for Zani's weapon becomes the next logical step if you want to push her damage even further. Zani's weapon is amazing for her, but it's also surprisingly versatile as the defense ignore can be triggered by basic attacks on other units. However, if you're choosing between this and pulling Phoebe, Phoebe brings more team value. Prioritizing her first gives Zani the Frazzle support she needs to shine. Once that core is in place, pulling Zani's weapon to push her damage further becomes a strong next step. And when it comes to Phoebe's own weapon, it's not essential, and you can safely skip it unless you want to slightly boost Zani's damage even more through the extra 30% Spectro Frazzle damage it provides. Next, we have Jiyan, as he's one of the returning characters available in the first phase of the anniversary patch, and one of the strongest picks overall. Jiyan is an Aero DPS who's been around since version 1.0 but still hits like a truck. His playstyle is simple: trigger his Resonance Liberation and spam basic attacks for huge AoE damage and crowd control. It's one of the easiest kits to pick up in the game, and still one of the most satisfying. His best partner so far is Mortify, a 4-star sub DPS who pairs extremely well with him and is easy to build. In a full team, Jiyan works best with Mortify and either Verina or Shorekeeper depending on what supports you have. On top of that, Ciaccona is now confirmed to be one of the best sub DPS options for Jiyan. Her kit grants 24% aero damage buff to the team, which directly increases Jiyan's output. While we still don't know the exact effects on her signature weapon, there's a chance it may further boost aero or aero erosion damage, making her an even more impactful support for Jiyan if you are willing to invest. Even without Ciaccona or Shorekeeper, Jiyan performs extremely well in a free-to-play team with Mortify and Verina. The premium options simply boost his ceiling, not his baseline. That makes his team comms very accessible, especially since his best partner so far is a 4-star. Jiyan does rely on his liberation uptime to stay strong, so rotation timing matters. He's also more grounded and can struggle in a bit of high movement boss fights, but in content like Wuthering Waves or general mob clearing, he's very powerful. His biggest weakness is how much he needs his signature weapon, Verdant Summit. The 3 broad blades don't work well on him, so pulling his weapon is pretty much a must if you want him at full power. That said, once you do, and if you give him good echoes, he clears everything in the game with ease. Before we wrap up, let's quickly talk about his sequences. His first sequence is great for free-to-play players as it helps him get his ult back faster, especially if your echo set isn't fully optimized. But if you like Jiyan and want to invest more, S3 is the real sweet spot. It gives him 16% crit rate and 32 crit damage for 8 seconds when using any of his key skills or intro, which lets you build more crit damage and focus your substats toward pure DPS. He's aged well, and for players who want a strong, simple and effective DPS that doesn't require a premium team, Jiyan is still a top tier choice. He also got an indirect buff with the patch that introduced the Nightmare Gorilla Echo, which helps improve his performance even more. Looking ahead, if Kuro ever releases a sub DPS that directly boosts aero and heavy attack damage, Jiyan could scale even higher and stay right at the top of the meta. Up next is Yinlin. She focuses on amplifying electro and resonance liberation damage, which makes her ideal for characters like Xiangli Yao or Carlotta. Unfortunately, neither of these team comps are part of the current meta, and they don't perform as strongly as other top tier compositions available right now. She also provides coordinated attacks, making her easy to slot into specific team comps that scales with those effects. She used to be a solid support option for Jinhsi thanks to those coordinated attacks, but now that both Cantarella and Zhezhi are available, she's clearly the weaker option compared to them. That said, there aren't many characters that fully benefit from her kit, which limits her flexibility for now. The good news, Yinlin's value may rise in the future if more Electro or Liberation scaling DPS units are released. Until then, she works best as a dedicated partner for both Xiangli Yao and Carlotta. Where Yinlin truly shines is in her weapon. It's one of the most flexible and variable weapons in the entire game. With high crit rate, a stacking attack buff, and wide usability, Strict Master is a top tier pool for any rectifier DPS or sub DPS. Even if you skip Yinlin, this weapon alone is worth considering. As for her sequences, she doesn't need them to perform well. But if you want to push her support further, S4 boosts team-wide attack by 20% after her heavy attack or liberation. Her S6 turns her into a hybrid DPS, but most players can safely stick to S0 and still get great results. Yinlin isn't a must pull for every account right now, unless you are running Xiangli Yao or want to plan ahead for future Electro-based teams. But Strict Master, that's one of the smartest investments you can make. Up next is Zhezhi, one of the best sub DPS and support characters in the game right now. She brings excellent value to teams built around Glacio and Resonance skill damage. Zhezhi works especially well with top tier DPS like Carlotta and Jinhsi and is currently considered a must pull if you are building around either of them. Her biggest strength is her ability to amplify Glacio and skill damage through her outro skill while also providing coordinated attacks. She even helps with energy regeneration, which makes team rotation smoother. She's easy to use, and with a bit of tech like jump cancelling, she can feel fast and responsive even in quick team rotations. Zhezhi is incredibly future-proof. Any future DPS unit that scales with skill damage or Glacio will likely pair well with her, giving her long-term value in your account. When it comes to her weapons, Her best in slot is technically her own signature. However, I recommend using String Master, Yinlin's signature weapon, as it's still more than enough for Zhezhi and offers great value. If you don't have access to String Master, she can still perform well with a standard 5-star weapon. As for her sequences, S1 gives her a small crit rate boost, which makes building crit damage on her easier. S2 increases her coordinated attack output, and S6 adds more utility. But for most players, stopping at S1 is a good balance between value and investment. Overall, Zhezhi is one of the safest and most reliable pulls in this banner cycle. She works well now and will only get better as more compatible DPS units are released. Up next is Xiangli Yao, a free unit for many early players and still one of the most flexible electro DPS characters in the game. He may not top the charts for raw damage, but he makes up for it with versatility and fun team options. Xiangli Yao's kit focuses on liberation damage and offers great AoE potential with wide range attacks and mobility during combat. His long-lasting liberation state gives you a lot of breathing room for dodges and positioning. He also brings anti-interruption during that state, which helps keep his combos flowing smoothly. He fits well in dual DPS comps, especially with characters like Changli or Carlotta. Unfortunately, he won't be able to reach his full potential while playing as a hyper carry. His kit shines most when played in double DPS quickswap team setup. If you try to run him as a solo hyper carry DPS with Yinlin, he still deals less damage compared to top meta units like Jinhsi, Jiyan or Carlotta. On top of that, his damage falls off more without his signature weapon, since many free or standard gauntlets don't properly boost liberation damage. As for sequences, they aren't necessary, but if you want more team synergy, his S4 is great. It gives all teammates 25% liberation damage after he casts his liberation, which is perfect for double DPS setups using liberation scaling characters. Overall, Xiangli Yao is a solid pick if you enjoy flexible team building and fluid gameplay. That said, I personally don't recommend pulling for him unless you really enjoy his playstyle. He requires a lot of skill, practice, and time investment to perform well, especially when you consider that characters like Jiyan are much easier to play and can be built with just 4-star units and still deliver very high damage with a lot less effort. He's not the strongest DPS in the game, but he's still a reliable pick, especially if you're already invested in Yinlin or want to run a double DPS comp. Wrapping up Phase 1, we have Phoebe, a flexible and free-to-play friendly unit returning for the anniversary. She's a versatile hybrid character who can be played as both a main DPS or a strong side DPS buffer depending on your team's needs. Phoebe's real strength is her Spectro Frazzle utility. In her confession state, her outro skill reduces nearby enemies' spectral resistance by 10% and grants 100% Spectro Frazzle damage amplification. When Spectro Frazzle deals damage, it also extends the Frazzle's damage interval by 50%. This effect lasts for 30 seconds or until Phoebe switches into Absolution state. With the full kit details now available, we know for sure that Phoebe pairs perfectly with Zani. She is essential for quickly applying Spectro Frazzle, enabling Zani to trigger her stronger abilities and rotation consistently. Together, they form one of the strongest teams available in patch 2.3. Even if you don't pull for Zani, Phoebe is still a very powerful DPS option when paired with Spectro Rover and 4-star units such as Sanhua or Mortify. Her gameplay is straightforward and effective, though it might feel a little repetitive if you prefer more complex playstyle. For weapons, String Master is a top choice, though her free 4-star weapon, Ocean Gift, is a strong option as well. Her signature weapon boosts her Spectro Frazzle damage even more, and it's also great if you plan to use Phoebe as a support for Zani. Unfortunately, even though her weapon is extremely good on Phoebe, it's very niche. Not many characters can fully use it, because it requires applying Spectro Frazzle to trigger its full damage amplification bonus. As for sequences, targeting S2 gives a big boost by providing 120% more Spectro Frazzle amplification, great if you plan to build her around supporting Zani or future Spectro Frazzle DPS units. If you want to use Phoebe as your main DPS instead, going up to S3 will give you an even bigger improvement and is worth considering. Otherwise, she performs well enough at S0 for most content. Overall, Phoebe is a great pick whether you need a solo DPS or a sub DPS to make Zani your main carry. That said, her value as a support is tied specifically to Spectro Frazzle focused teams, which makes her kit more niche. Unlike Zhezhi, who can slot into multiple comps across different elements thanks to her skill damage buffs and coordinated attacks, Phoebe's support role is more limited. If future content or characters move away from Spectro Frazzle, her flexibility could drop off. Starting Phase 2, we have Ciaccona, the second limited unit of the anniversary patch, bringing a fresh support style to Wuthering Waves. She's an Aero resonator who wields pistols and serves as an off-field support and sub-DPS. Her kit grants a permanent 24% aero damage bonus to the entire team, and her outro also amplifies aero erosion by 100%, which may be more useful as the new aero erosion units are released. Ciaccona's strength also lies in her ability to set up teams around both aero erosion and Spectro Frazzle mechanics, giving her a strong long-term potential as a flexible, future-proof support option. For now, her most valuable role is enhancing aero teams, especially those led by Jiyan. Jiyan, one of the original launch units from version 1.0, finally has a dedicated support that directly enhances his aero output. This makes him significantly more relevant this patch. On the Spectro side, Ciaccona can still provide backup by applying Spectro Frazzle, offering some flexibility for Zani teams that don't run Phoebe. As for her weapon, since her talent scale on crit damage, we expect her signature to offer crit rate as its main stat. There's also a chance it may further boost aero or aero erosion damage, or even both, especially since her kit shares similarities with Phoebe's, whose weapon enhances Spectro Frazzle damage. If that pattern continues, Ciaccona's signature could make her an even more impactful support for Jiyan. The best alternative is the Lance Dance, Carlotta's signature, though it's only worth pulling if you already own Carlotta. Static Mist is a good standard 5-star fallback. Her second sequence adds a general 40% aero damage amplification, not limited to aero erosion. This buff benefits all aero DPS units and helps Ciaccona stay relevant even outside of erosion-focused teams. Overall, Ciaccona is a long-term value sub-DPS, who brings strong buffs to aero teams and situational support for Spectro comps. She's a great pick if you want to future-proof your roster or bring out the full potential of Jiyan. Moving into Phase 2 returning units, we have Jinhsi, a powerhouse DPS who has remained one of the best picks since her release. She's a Spectro Resonator who focuses on dealing massive burst damage through her enhanced resonance skill and liberation. Jinhsi is extremely beginner-friendly with flexible team building. Her core team setup needs simple support characters like Yuan and Taochi, and she gets even stronger with premium options like Zhezhi, Cantarella, or even Yinlin. While Yinlin is a solid alternative, Zhezhi and Cantarella provide more coordinated attacks, making them fit better overall with Jinhsi's needs. Her damage mainly comes from her resonance skill, and she relies heavily on teammates' coordinated attacks to quickly stack incandescence, maximizing the damage of her enhanced skill. While she benefits a lot from her signature weapon, she's not completely dependent on it. Verdant Summit, Jiyan's signature weapon, is a strong premium alternative, though the gap between Verdant Summit and the free 5-star Lustrous Razor is relatively small. Lustrous Razor is still a good free alternative if you don't have access to premium weapons. Overall, she's definitely less reliant on her signature weapon compared to other DPS units like Jiyan. In terms of sequences, S1 offers a nice damage boost and quality of life improvements, but she already clears most content efficiently at S0. Sequences mainly serve to push her performance even further for those who want to invest heavily. If you are looking for a reliable Spectro DPS that's easy to build around, has beautiful animations, and hits hard without needing a complicated playstyle, Jinhsi is a top-tier choice for Phase 2. However, if you already have Spectro units like Zani or Phoebe, it might be better to prioritize other elements instead. In the endgame, facing enemies with Spectro resistance can make clearing content much harder if your roster isn't diversified, so broadening your team's options is important for smoother clears. If you are struggling to choose between Jinhsi, Zani or Phoebe, I would personally recommend going for Zani, since she is a newer unit and her playstyle looks more interactive compared to the more scripted combo sequences of Jinhsi. On top of that, the current meta seems to be shifted towards Spectro Frazzle setups. If you're also planning to pull Ciaccona, Zani will benefit even more, since Ciaccona is a great fit for teams built around applying Spectro Frazzle or Aero erosion. And if you are not planning to invest heavily into limited characters, you can still pair Zani with Spectro Rover and have a very strong, free-to-play friendly team. Next up in Phase 2 is Carlotta, one of the best single-target DPS characters in Wuthering Waves. She's a Glacier Resonator who wields pistols and shines when it comes to clearing bosses and low-target fights, especially in Tower of Adversity. Carlotta's strength lies in her massive burst and control. She can freeze enemies and bosses with her bullets, giving you windows of opportunities to deal even more damage safely. She pairs perfectly with Zhezhi for ultimate boss clearing team, especially because Zhezhi not only boosts resonance skill damage but also provides a strong glacier damage buff. In addition to Zhezhi, premium units like Cantarella and Brant are also excellent partners. Both of them provide resonance skill damage buffs to their outro skill, helping Carlotta maximize her burst windows even further. Even without these premium options, she works well alongside free units like Yang and Taochi. However, her biggest disadvantage is that she's mainly focused on single target damage. While she has some AOE, the majority of her strength lies in fighting isolated enemies or very small groups. In the endgame content, where waves of monsters or group spawns are more common, she might struggle compared to AOE-focused characters. If you are looking for a unit more reliable for broader endgame content like Wuthering Waves, I would recommend investing into Jiyan instead. Carlotta's weapon, the Last Dance, is the best option, offering huge crit damage, attack boost, and resonance skill damage bonus. However, she can perform extremely well using Static Mist, the free standard 5-star pistol, making her very accessible even for free-to-play players. The Last Dance is mainly for pushing her damage numbers even higher. As for sequences, S1 provides a useful quality of life improvement by making it easier to trigger her enhanced skill and boosting her crit rate. S2 offers a strong damage increase focused on her liberation. If you really like Carlotta and want to invest a bit more, I would recommend going up to S3, as it brings another significant damage spike. I would not suggest going for S4 or S5 because the next major power boost happens only at S6. For most free-to-play players, stopping at S3 offers a great balance between investment and performance, while keeping Astrites available for future units. That said, even at S0, Carlotta already delivers strong, consistent results and is more than capable of clearing all content. If your focus is mainly boss fights or small group content, Carlotta and Zhezhi are currently the best duo in the game. Carlotta stands out as the strongest single-target DPS, and Zhezhi perfectly complements her with both glacial damage buffs and resonance skill damage amplification, making them an incredibly powerful and reliable pair for clearing focused encounters. Next up in Phase 2 we have Roccia. She's a Havoc sub-DPS designator who uses gauntlets and focuses on setting up easier clears by pulling enemies together and amplifying allies' basic attack and Havoc damage. Because of how Roccia's kit works, she finds her best use when paired with Camellia, the only limited Havoc DPS currently available. Outside of Camellia, her value drops off, and pairing her with Havoc Rover or Dungeon doesn't maximize her potential. Sanhua, a free 4-star alternative, can fill a similar role with far less investment, making Roccia a more of a luxury option rather than a necessary pull for most players. Her weapon, Tragic Comedy, increases attack and boosts heavy attack damage. While it works surprisingly well on Zani too, its short uptime and niche effect makes it less valuable overall. If you're planning to build Zani seriously, it's better to pull her signature weapon instead, which fits Zani perfectly and can still be used on Roccia if needed. Pulling a weapon mainly for the sub DPS like Roccia isn't ideal, since it's much smarter to prioritize your main DPS. As for her sequences, Roccia gains mirror improvements to her damage and buffing power, but none of them drastically change her value. However, if you want to invest more into her, I would recommend stopping at S2. At S2, she provides an additional 40% Havoc damage boost to the whole team through her outro skill, totaling a massive 60% Havoc damage bonus when combined with her outro buff. This makes her an amazing sub-DPS specifically for buffing Havoc-based teams, offering huge value for players who want to maximize their damage output. She works perfectly fine at S0 for those who want to use her mainly for crowd control and simple buffs. Overall, Roccia is a fun, specialized character. Personally, when I first used her, I didn't really like Roccia because in Tower of Adversity, she could easily get interrupted while airborne, breaking her combos and slowing her rotations. However, using her S1 solves that problem nicely, though I wouldn't recommend investing into S1 just for that. If you are careful with her combos, you won't have major issues with interruptions. What really made Roccia grow on me was not only her performance in Wuthering Waves, but also how incredibly helpful her grouping capabilities were when farming materials and echoes around the open world. She made exploration and grinding much easier and more relaxing, and that made her feel like a genuinely fun addition to my roster. If you love her playstyle or need extra support for Havoc DPS teams, she can be a good pull. She also has potential to be a strong support pick if Kuro releases a powerful Havoc DPS unit in the future, especially if you invest up to S2. However, I wouldn't recommend pulling for her just based on future speculations. As a free-to-play player, it's much smarter to prioritize diversifying your DPS roster rather than stacking sub-DPS units that depend on unreleased characters. Considering her overlap with free options like Sanhua and the easier clears now possible in Wuthering Waves, most players might prefer saving resources for broader meta picks. Next up in Phase 2 we have Changli, a fusion DPS who shines when paired with Brant. She is built for quick swap, high burst rotations and delivers some of the best single instances burst damage in the game when played correctly. Changli's kit focuses heavily on maximizing fusion and resonance skill damage. She excels in dual DPS setups, especially with Brant, who buffs both fusion and skill damage and provides shields and healing that greatly stabilize Changli's rotations. If you have Cantarella or Zhezhi, they can work as a replacement for Changli, but keep in mind that their performance will be noticeably worse compared to Brant. Without these units, Changli shines best in quickswap teams, working well alongside units like Xiangli Yao, Carlotta or Jinhsi. If you don't want to focus on quickswap teams, you can also place her in a more traditional dual DPS setup. Free-to-play options like Havoc Rover, Chixia and Anchor can easily fill that second DPS slot to support Changli's playstyle. Her biggest challenge is execution. Changli's playstyle demands precise timing and fast switching to maximize her forte and liberation windows. She is considered one of the hardest units to master in Wuthering Waves, but players who invest the time to learn her rotations will be rewarded with high burst and flashy gameplay. For her weapon, Blazing Brilliance is the best choice and one of the most flexible signature weapons in the game. It offers a huge crit damage boost, 12% permanent attack bonus, and up to 56% increases in skill damage. This makes it not only ideal for Changli, but also a strong choice for any sword user like Havoc Rover, Dungeon or Sanhua. If you are skipping her weapon, she can still perform well using Emerald of Genesis. As for sequences, S1 boosts her damage and gives her resistance to interruption, making her much smoother to play. S2 further improves her by adding crit rate, which makes building her stats easier. Even without sequences, Changli still performs very well at S0 if you master her rotations. Overall, Changli is a high skill, high reward character. Another point to consider is that right now, there aren't many DPS units that fully benefit from Changli's outro buff to fusion and resonance liberation damage. However, compared to Roccia, there's a high chance that Kuro could release new fusion-based DPS units that would fit naturally into teams with Changli. Meanwhile, Roccia already has Camellia as a perfect match, limiting her future scaling a bit more. Still, it's important to keep in mind that pulling Changli based purely on future potential is risky, especially because she already demands a lot of practice and precise execution to perform well. If you love fast rotations, flashy burst, and you are planning to pair her with Brant, she can be a fantastic addition to your account. But if you prefer easy to play DPS units or don't want to commit to dual DPS playstyles, she may not be the best pool for you right now. Closing out Phase 2, we have Brant, one of the most versatile and valuable fusion characters currently available, but also the most complicated and hardest character to build in the game due to his heavy energy regen requirements. He's a unit who can flex between DPS, support and quickswap burst roles depending on how you build him. Brant's kit is built around fusion damage amplification, resonance skill damage buffs, healing, shielding and strong quickswap capabilities. If you invest into his signature weapon and gear him properly with over 250 energy regen, he becomes an incredible all-rounder who can slot into multiple team types. He pairs perfectly with Changli, allowing her to reach her full potential through powerful fusion and skill damage boosts. Without Changli, Brant can still work well with units like Carlotta, Encore, Chixia or Sanhua, offering team utilities through buffs and healing. However, if you skip his signature weapon or fail to reach his energy regen threshold, Brant becomes more limited and shifts toward a weaker hypercarry role, where he's easily outclassed by other options. His weapon gives energy regen, crit rate, and strong buffs to basic attack damage, everything he needs to shine. If you don't have his signature weapon, he can also work with a 4-star sword, Overture. However, reaching 250 energy regen with Overture is more difficult and will require strong echo substats. Still, if you can manage it, Overture is a good free-to-play alternative. As for sequences, Brant doesn't require them to function at a basic level, but a lot of his true potential is locked behind the first 3 sequences. While he can still work at S0 to truly unlock what makes Brant special, extra investment into his early sequences makes a huge difference alongside good gearing and his signature weapon. Overall, Brant is a tough resource-heavy investment, but if you are willing to commit, he becomes one of the most flexible and impactful resonators available. For free-to-play players, building Brant can be extremely difficult. Even if you manage to pull him and possibly his weapon without spending too much Astrite, the real challenge is reaching his high energy regen threshold of at least 250%, while also balancing crit rate, crit damage and attack percentage substats on his echoes to fully unlock his potential. Achieving this requires a lot of time and resources spent farming and optimizing echo substats, making him far less free-to-play friendly compared to other units. Whether you want to build a fusion-focused team, pair him with Changli for high-level clears, or simply have a strong support DPS hybrid on your roster, Brant is an amazing long-term pickup, but only if you are ready for the investment. Now that we've gone through all the units, you should see a visual on the screen showing which signature weapons are the most versatile and valuable, especially when deciding whether they are worth pulling based on how well they will work across multiple characters, or if they offer a noticeable improvement over the 5-star weapons. While the visual is displayed, here are a few quick points to help you understand it better. Firstly, certain signature weapons like Yinlin's, Changli's, and Zani's are amazing because they work extremely well on multiple characters, making them a great long-term investment. And secondly, other signature weapons are very niche and are only worth pulling if you are sure you'll stick with that specific unit long-term. For example, Jiyan's signature weapon is excellent on him, but doesn't bring much value to other characters. You may only want to pull for it if you already have Jiyan, because he's extremely reliant on his signature to perform well. If you don't have him, it's better to skip his weapon as it won't significantly boost your account like other more versatile options. If you are looking for the best return on your Astrites, focusing on pulling a flexible signature weapon that fits multiple limited units is the safest part. Just a quick note, this overview is based on the data and calculations published by Prydwen. This rankings reflects how each signature weapon performs statistically when compared to standard 5-star weapons. If you are interested in a more detailed breakdown of the numbers, I will leave a link to Prydwen's site in the description so you can check it out for yourself. With the weapon section covered, let's now take a look at overall character priorities, especially if you are a returning or veteran player. Here's how I personally recommend approaching your pools. And if you are starting fresh as a new player or looking to build your account from the ground up, my top 3 pools would be Jiyan, a reliable, easy to play Aero DPS and perfect for beginners. He works extremely well with free units like Mortefi and Verina, making him one of the most accessible and effective early investment. His echo build is extremely simple, even though he performs best with his signature weapon. Jiyan shines in AoE content like Wuthering Waves, offering strong consistent clearing power without requiring a complicated setup or high mechanical skill. The next would be Carlotta, the best single target DPS in the game for boss fights. She's incredibly strong when facing isolated enemies, easy to build, beginner friendly, and brings a different element to your roster. That makes her an excellent choice for diversifying your account and clearing tough bosses content with ease. And lastly, I choose Zani, mainly because her playstyle is dynamic and generally fun to use. Her kit is more complex than most, and that extra level of interaction makes each fight feel more engaging and rewarding. But if you are trying to invest as efficient as possible, Phoebe should be your priority. She can act as a main DPS if you don't have the Astrite for Zani, and if you do get Zani, Phoebe will boost her performance more than Zani's signature weapon. This is a rare case where both characters are available in the same patch, and is the perfect opportunity to pull Phoebe. So, if you want to run Zani, the ideal order is get Zani, then Phoebe, and only after that consider Zani's signature weapon. Choosing these 3 would give you a strong, flexible foundation to clear all content while covering multiple elements. As a new account, you want to diversify your team composition as much as possible, which is why picking 3 DPS units makes the most sense. Zani might have a slightly more complex playstyle, but both Jiyan and Carlotta are extremely beginner-friendly. The main goal early on should be building strong, easy-to-use teams that help you clear all endgame content without stress. We have gone through a lot, from units to weapons to team building priorities. Hopefully by now, you have a much clearer idea of who to pull for and how to set up your account for success. The first anniversary patch for Wuthering Waves is packed with some of the most exciting and powerful units we've seen so far. Whether you are looking to strengthen your roster, set up future-proof teams, or simply enjoy new gameplay styles, there's something here for every kind of player. Take your time to plan your pools carefully, balance your Astrite wisely, and focus on building teams that will keep you flexible for future updates. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you. What resonators would you like me to cover next? And if you were to start fresh as a new player, which top 3 units would you pick for your account? Let me know down in the comments. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me keep making content like this. And there's much more on the way. Thanks for watching and good luck with your pools.